so much for coming and watching our talk today. My name is Hong. I am an interaction designer working on AMP Stories.
And I'm Vinay Mahagaokar, a product manager working on AMP Stories. We are both incredibly excited and grateful for the opportunity to share with you all what we've been working on. Mobile phones have emerged as one of the primary devices on which we consume content. And stories have emerged as one of the most delightful content types to consume on our phones. Certain demographics of users consume primarily stories. Invented by Snapchat, stories have found their way onto Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, just to name a few apps. Stories feel truly native to your phone. Users love them, and they are beautiful. You don't have to rotate your phone. You don't have to scroll through long pages of text. The interaction model of tapping to navigate is simple and delightful. However, stories do not exist at scale on the open web. They are not easily findable, shareable, or linkable. And this is where AMP Stories come in. We believe there is distinct value in having stories live on the open web. First, you are in control. You own the content. You completely control monetization. Second, stories have features. AMP Stories have features that are unique to the web. They can link to other parts of your site. They can be discovered by search engines. And they can be embedded in any web page. Finally, AMP Stories are both fast and immersive. AMP Stories are important because they enable you to offer the delightful story experience on the web. In February 2018, we first introduced AMP Stories. Since then, we have seen publishers produce beautiful content about a wide array of topics. Today, we will talk about the benefits of building AMP Stories on the open web. First, we will talk about where AMP Stories appear on both Google Search and Discover. We want you, as a publisher of AMP Stories, to be able to reach a wide audience. And we want to improve the user journeys on both Google Search and Discover by displaying AMP Stories. Second, we will go over the many new capabilities that we've added to AMP Stories to help you build beautiful content. Third, we will cover best practices for creating high-quality AMP Stories. Fourth, we will describe ways that publishers can generate revenue and advertisers can build and promote their brands by creating AMP Stories. Finally, we'll describe a few different creation tools that enable you to build AMP Stories without having to write your own HTML. Now I'll hand it over to Hong, who will talk about where stories appear on both Google Search and Discover.
Thanks, Vinay. So now, let's all get excited and start with AMP Stories on Google services. So after you have created all these beautiful AMP Stories, the main question you might have is how can users easily discover them? Well, as Vinay mentioned before, the great things about AMP in general is that your stories are just regular web pages. So they can be accessible wherever through publisher sites, through social platforms, and of course, through search engines like Google. So AMP Stories can show up on Google Search today in web results and top stories. In order to make the whole search experience more visual and interactive, we're working on a dedicated placement for AMP Stories on search for queries in specific categories. So now, let's use travel as example and all get on a visual search journey together. I think May is a great season to travel to Japan. So why don't we imagine ourselves searching for things to do in Tokyo? And here, you have the search result page. You start scrolling and exploring the cool content, and you find this beautiful blog serving your cool travel visual stories. Tapping on any of this cover will take you right into the story. So now, you're able to enjoy your reading experience by simply tap through the pages. And if you want to browse something else, you can just simply swipe to the next story. You will get this endless discovery experience by continuously swiping to the next. How amazing is this? I can't wait to see this rolling out in the next couple months. I see some of you guys already try to get this on your phone right now. Well, please stay tuned. It's coming very soon. And the things to do in Tokyo example we just saw is really just a teaser. There's so many cool places to visit around the world. And by adding this new experience to Google search, users will start getting more and more engaging travel stories. We will start with travel because we believe that looking at a rich content experience like this can really help users get a better understanding of the travel destinations. And the users can engage more before they even physically get to the destinations. And these travel visual stories also tend to be evergreen, so they're still relevant months after being published. And of course, story format works really well with other content categories. After travel, we will experiment with gaming, fashion, recipe, movies, TV shows, and even more content categories. So beyond the regular search experience, Google also offers you a browse-forward experience in the Discover feed for all-time users that do not need to have a query in mind. A quick reminder on what's Discover. So Discover is a feature within Google Search that helps users to stay up to date with their all-time favorite topics without needing a query. Users get to their Discover experience through the Google app from the google.com mobile homepage or by simply swipe right from their home screen on Pixel phones. Discover has grown significantly and now helps more than 800 million monthly active users to get inspired and explore great content. The exciting news is that in the past 6 months, we have also been featuring great AMP stories in the Discover feed. We served many high-quality stories based on a diverse range of topics, and we saw great user engagement. We believe that stories fit really well with the user mindset in Discover, so we're planning on focus even more on this platform moving forward. So now, I'll hand it back to Vinay to walk you through the exciting AMP story format updates.
Thanks, Hong. Let's go over the new capabilities that we've added to help you build beautiful stories that users love. The first is localization. When AMP Stories first launched, it only supported English, which was actually very limiting. Today, it supports 21 different locales. To use these new languages, set the lang attribute to the corresponding language and locale code on the HTML tag of your AMP story. If your story should be displayed in right-to-left format, you should add the dir equals RTL attribute as well. Let's move on to desktop. The default experience on desktop reuses the mobile design so that publishers can simply create for mobile and have a design that works everywhere. However, one of the major benefits of AMP Stories is that they live on the web, and they reach a wide audience of users, many of whom are on desktop and laptop computers. We realized that we can build an amazing desktop experience by using full-screen images and video. On a desktop computer, this feels a lot more natural, and it brings the same feeling of immersion that we see with AMP Stories on mobile phones. It does require you as the publisher to do a little bit more work in terms of getting the right art direction. However, if you have a sizable desktop audience, the uplift in user experience is worth the effort. This experience was designed and developed in a collaboration with the Washington Post, whose story you see here. They worked closely with us to experiment with this experience and prove its effectiveness. Once we understood the value that this brought to users, we productionized it and shipped it as a core part of the AMP Stories app. The Washington Post has continued to publish a number of amazing stories using the desktop experience. Since launching this experience publicly, we have also seen great content by the SF Chronicle. So, how do you get this experience on your stories? The short answer is to just add the supports landscape attribute to the AMP Story tag. However, you will notice that some images and videos are not appropriately cropped. This is because, by default, on all screen sizes, we do a center crop, where only the centermost portion of the image is shown. To correct this, use the new object position attribute. On AMP image and AMP video, the object position attribute takes an X percentage and a Y percentage as the focal point. In this example, we set the focal point to 75% on the x-axis and 40% on the y-axis, which is roughly the most important part of this photo. The browser will then shift the photo over and attempt to make the focal point as close as possible to the center of the screen, giving us a much better crop. You'll notice, however, that on landscape, the photo remains unchanged. That's because in this case, the focal point cannot actually be moved any closer to the center of the screen while the photo still covers the entire screen. Let's move on to talk about the sidebar. Publishers told us that they wanted a navigational affordance to allow users to navigate to different parts of their site from their AMP stories. So we've added support for AMP sidebar. This adds a sidebar or hamburger menu to the top right of your AMP story pages. Using AMP sidebar is relatively straightforward. You can embed the AMP sidebar tag as a direct child of AMP story. All of the content within the sidebar tag will appear in the sidebar menu. Next up is attachments. Stories are great because they're concise. However, there are times when you want to enable your audience to dive deeper into a particular topic, and this is where attachments come in. To open an attachment, a user can simply swipe up from the bottom of a page. As a publisher, you control the content of the attachment entirely. To add an attachment to your page, add the AMP Story Page Attachment tag as a direct child of AMP Story Page. This will add a UI affordance to the bottom of the page that a user can usually swipe up on to reveal the scrollable pane. All of the HTML for an attachment must be within the AMP Story Page Attachment tags. Attachments can contain many AMP components that are not supported on AMP Story pages. The last component we'll talk about is embeds. One of the great things about the web is the ability to embed content within your page. We are adding the ability to embed different types of content in your AMP Story pages. One challenge with adding interactive embeds to stories is that users tap to navigate. In this particular example, if a user is tapping quickly through the story, we don't want the user to accidentally start playing this video. This is why tapping an interactive embed triggers a tooltip with navigation arrows. Tapping the navigation arrows navigates, while tapping the tooltip brings the Twitter embed into full focus. This allows the user to interact with the content fully without breaking the navigational flow. Each of the embeds that we support is an AMP component. So embedding them in your story is as simple as just using that AMP component. In this example here, we're embedding a tweet. So we can utilize the AMP Twitter component just like in a regular AMP page. We're going to be rolling each of these components out individually over the next few months. Now I'll hand it back to Hong, who will talk about best practices.
Thanks, Vinay. I can't wait to see upcoming AMP stories creating with all these cool features. So beyond offering you great features and flexibilities to create AMP stories, we also want it easier for you to produce high-quality stories. We updated our story best practice on amp.dev to make it easier for you to understand what makes a good story. We all know that story is a new and a unique content format. So if you're looking for inspirations, ideas to start creating delightful stories, you can go check out our best practice to ensure your story quality. So now, let's take a look at some detailed examples. So when you make a story, always make sure your story is complete and self-contained. Keep your readers engaged within the story. Don't require them to click on links to go to other websites to get essential information. Use text in a clear and concise way. Keep your audience engaged by avoiding putting large blocks of text on the page. Keep in mind that story is a visually driven format. So please use rich media to tell your story and add text to enhance it. Sometimes using different font size or font style can help you break up the block of text and then make the whole scannability more easy. Always make sure your text is legible, using high contrast to make every single word on your page easy to see. Take advantage of the beautiful full screen. Try to use full bleed assets as much as possible. You can create a more compelling and immersive page experience by using the full bleed portrait-based images and videos. Another good thing about using the portrait assets is it can help cut off the non-important information on the page and help your readers to focus on one key single subject. And we all know that motion plays an important role in the storytelling. So be creative with the animation usage. You can bring static imagery to life by the proper usage of animations. Please keep in mind that animation should always enhance the visual, but not distract the visual. In the left example here, animating individual objects separately to the page make the whole visual experience looks more interesting and enjoyable. On the right example here, the effects on the background image looks nice and subtle. It also helps create a nicer balance with the text overlay together and make the whole page experience feels more immersive. I hope these examples are helpful. To look at more examples like this, please check out our 4 AMP story best practice on amp.dev. Moving forward, let's talk about monetization. So AMP stories offer you this fast and immersive mobile-first content experience. We also think that stories can create a great opportunity to make advertising more beautiful and immersive. In the past 1 year, we have also been working really hard on the AMP Stories monetization side. So now, we can provide you a diverse of ways to monetize your stories. And today, we're going to talk about 3 of them. First up is story ad. So if you are a publisher that makes revenue on web articles, you have now created a beautiful AMP story. So what is your best option to monetize your content? To better answer this question, we actually looked back and borrowed principles from how advertising worked in magazines. So when you look at a beautiful magazine, the ads inside always feel really immersive and take up the entire page. The ads are placed tastefully in the right sections, never feel overloaded. And finally, they're very flexible. It opens up this clean and blank canvas to allow advertisers to create whatever ad they want. So with story ads, we wanted to ensure that the ads always feel immersive and take up the entire real estate available of the device. We'll also make sure that the ads is only going to load once fully loaded. So no more loading indicators. Here's one example where the BMW created a beautiful story ad showcasing autonomous driving. The placement of the ad is orchestrated by the AMP stories. We will optimize where the ad goes for the right user at the right time. This allows us to create a great balance between the ad density and publisher revenue. And when the ad is fully loaded and ready to show, we'll simply splice the ad into the publisher story. Story ads also helps open up a flexible canvas to allow advertisers to show whatever media they want, from text to images to videos or even animations. They're all built on the top of the AMP HTML ad framework, so the capabilities here are endless. And the story ads are already live today for publishers who are using Google Ad Managers. If you are an advertiser, in this particular case, Intuit, you can basically go talk to any publisher that's creating or serving stories and using Google Ad Manager to deliver your ads into the story. So here's an example of a Washington Post story. And when the ad is ready to show, the Intuit ad will simply show up. And later in the summer, we will launch programmatic support. So now, as an advertiser, you will able to directly using DV360 to target any publisher around the world, and using Google Ad Manager to deliver your ads into the stories. To make it super easy for you to get started, we have created beautiful story ads templates and made them available for you to download for free on amp.dev. And of course, the entire canvas is free and flexible. We just want to get you quickly started with a few common formats. And these templates are all available on amp.dev today, so you can download them and then design the ad in the ways you prefer. So now, let's talk about affiliate links. So affiliate links are links which allow a publisher to monetize their outgoing links when a user purchases something on a linked advertiser's landing page. In a way, stories already support affiliate links today. You can add any outgoing links within a story page. So in this example here, if you tap on Get Now, you're able to continue to go to the product landing page. But we want to make the whole user experience more consistent across users for all publishers. So we're working on a special UI to let affiliate links to uniformly pause at the system level to indicate this is an affiliate link. And when a user taps on them, the publishers can control what to show, including things like the price of the product or the domain is going to in the follow-up state. In this example here, it's really clear for the user to know where they're going to and the price of the product. Finally, let's switch gears and talk about sponsor stories. So what we mean by sponsor stories are really just the stories that are created by advertisers for marketing purposes. For example, here's a sponsor story that created by L'Oreal for promoting their new product, La Roche-Posay. This works great for L'Oreal because users could get a quick idea of the product in this fast and immersive mobile-first content experience within just a few taps. So instead of creating a whole new web landing page, L'Oreal has chosen to create a story. L'Oreal also uses QR code to create an offline to online strategy where they send users to their stories by simply scanning the QR code on the back of their package box. They also enable the really cool NFC technology in their physical product station, where they send users to the story by one simple scan, as you can see in the right video here. Notice how quickly the story loads. There's no need to download any additional apps from App Store in order to get the story. This allows to deliver amazing content right away to you from one simple URL. And we also know that large publishers already have a big sponsor content business where they write editorial content on behalf of the advertisers. So here's an example where the Telegraph created a beautiful travel sponsor story talking about Guangxi. And because this is an app story, so it works beautifully on desktop as well. The key question in advertising is, now you have created all this beautiful experience. How can you drive traffic to sponsor story, and how can you get users to find them? Well, here we have a few examples. The first one is when you use sponsor stories as landing pages in Google Ads. The sponsor story will be automatically delivered from the AMP cache. Therefore, from a user standpoint, the experience will be really snappy, fast, and immersive. And sponsor stories can also be embedded inside of your regular web pages, just like any of the other AMP stories. Because sponsor story is really just a landing page. So you can embed it inside an iframe and put it on your page. And when a user tap on it, it will launch into this beautiful full-screen experience. You can find out all this info and more about AMP Stories monetization on amp.dev/stories. Now, I'll hand it back to Vinay to walk you through AMP Story creation tools.
Thanks, Hong. There are a number of third-party tools that enable you to build AMP stories without having to write your own HTML. Make Stories is a what you see is what you get editor that enables you to build AMP stories from scratch just by dragging and dropping. It includes a library of built-in templates, as well as free icons, illustrations, and GIFs. You can upload your own images and videos. Make Stories is free. Check it out at makestories.io. Unfold is a story creation tool that launched at the beginning of last year and has since grown to more than 17 million downloads. It offers easy story creation right from your Android or iOS device and includes a number of beautiful templates and themes. Unfold will add support for AMP stories later this summer as part of a premium version of its app. Newsroom Studio is a powerful story creation tool specifically engineered for publishers looking to embed these tappable formats into both editorial and commercial workflows. It includes a turnkey monetization solution, recommendations engine, as well as unrestricted access to the Getty library of images and videos. We're also starting to see platforms publish stories to the web. Both JumpRope and TickDone are platforms for users and creators to publish how-to stories. Both are publishing to the web in the AMP Stories format today. Lastly, we on the AMP team have also been working to add story support to CMSs, starting with the WordPress AMP plugin. We have been working jointly with the agency XWP to add a what you see is what you get editor to the WordPress AMP plugin. With this plugin, you can upload images and videos, add and customize text, and add animations to different objects. This will launch around June 20th at WordCamp Europe. This concludes our talk on AMP Stories. In summary, we want to leave you with the following points. Stories have emerged as one of the most delightful content types to consume on our phones. AMP Stories bring this format to the open web, and publishers benefit because they own their AMP stories, can make them discoverable, can link to them, embed them, and monetize them. Today, we announced a new placement for AMP Stories on Google Search, new capabilities to help you create more beautiful stories, best practices on how to create high-quality stories, ways to monetize your AMP stories, and creation tools that enable you to build AMP stories without having to write your own HTML. To get started with the AMP stories, check out the story page at go.amp.dev/stories. This has documentation on what stories are and how to use them, as well as documentation for story ads. You can also click through to see live examples of some of the stories we've shown here today. Another great resource to check out is the best practices guide that goes into what makes a good story, including all of the examples that Hong went over today. If you have additional questions, please check out the AMP Stories sandbox. Thank you.